seed, dispatched the #1 seed, Cody Howard, in the top 8. He is playing against Chris Yarbrough's blue-white-red control deck, and you have to think you have reached quite a late game here, and actually one that's not always clear is going to win. Normally when you see mono blue on one side and you see an Elspeth on the other, you say, okay, this is all she wrote. It's got to be Elspeth. But I kind of feel the same way when I see an Aetherling against a control deck. So the question is, where are we here?
It's the battle of the dominant 6-drops. Which is better, Elspeth or Aetherling? I'd have to say with Chris at 13 and Eric at 20, I'm going to give the edge to Aetherling. But yeah, I agree with you. This is one of those funny board games where
how did we get here?
How did we get here? Yeah. So I think Eric's in pretty good shape, especially if it's his turn. He can actually just kill the Elspeth this turn. So it looks like it might be Eric's turn. I'm not 100% sure, but based on the fact that he's moving around, I would say it's probably his turn. He could probably just make Aetherling unblockable, attack Elspeth, and then pump it.
Yeah, so this is a difficult board state for a control deck facing down an opposing Aetherling. If you look at Yarbrough's sideboard, first thing you notice is that there are no pithing needles in it. So he actually does not have an answer to Aetherling once it's resolved. His answer is to out-revelation it. Granted, that actually is an answer in control decks.
Yeah. The funny thing for Eric, though, he has a Jace Memory Adept in his hand as well. So looks like we're going to see Nykthos getting activated for blue, netting him 4 mana.
One
if he
bonus.
taps one more island, he will get a Jace into play.
Yeah, I was going to say things actually seemed fine if Eric didn't have a counter spell, because Chris does have the Revelation. And like I said, Revelationing through an Aetherling, that's something that's very possible.
Yeah,
well,
but that plan... Fighting Aetherling and Jace is very difficult.
Yeah, well, especially because Yarbrough's not on the Elixir of Immortality version. That's not going to be as viable. One of the things, the Infinite Sphinx's Revelation plan, that's something that's really only accessible to the Elixir of Immortality builds. I'd say it's a lot harder for a traditional one to Revelation through an Aetherling.
Oh, wow. So it looks... Did he attack Yarbrough? It looks like he might have attacked Yarbrough.
He attacked Yarbrough. He let the Elspeth stand. Attacks Yarbrough down to 8. A convenient number when you think about it. I don't know, though. I think a little aggressive. I just as soon like to get that Suns champion off the battlefield.
Yeah, I think one of the... Yeah, I would rather just get the Suns champion off the battlefield. One, it guarantees that your Jace is going to stay into play for several turns, and 2...
Well, if you leave your opponent with an empty board, with a board of 3 soldiers, and you have an Aetherling and a Memory Adept, it just seems so difficult to lose from that spot.
Yeah, I think he's just... I'm not sure why Eric is so... if he's trying to win this quickly.
He smells victory,
like,
okay? He has his opponent at 8. He has an Aetherling. You know, life's great, right?
If he drew a gainsay, maybe I can understand it a little bit, but...
He was not really planning on the mill. He did plus the Jace to draw a card. And we will see here, Elspeth ticked up to make 3 more tokens. The tap land came into play for Yarbrough. Remember, Yarbrough does have a Sphinx's Revelation in plan. It is possible that he can start revelating through the damage that Aetherling is dealing. The question then is, if you're revelationing through Aetherling damage, then you have to win on your own, and that's typically going to be done by your own Aetherling. Or, I guess in this case, it's going to have to be done by an Elspeth. Well, Chris does have 1 Aetherling in his 75, so... he plays cards like Assemble, but
I don't know. It was looking terrible for Chris a turn ago. Now I don't think he's in that bad shape, just because he still has that Elspeth in play, so he's going to be able to generate a lot of creatures.
Eric swung for lethal, but it was a Revelation of 4 cast by Yarbrough to stay alive. He'll go up to 12, but back down to 4. As you see, that Revelation drew another Revelation and the Detention Sphere for the Jace.
Yeah, so he's a Detention Sphere for Jace now. And like you said, he does have another Sphinx Revelation, so...
And Eric's plussing Jace here. I am questioning. I will say I almost even would prefer a 0 on Jace here. If your opponent's going to be on the all-revelation plan, why not take the cards out of his library? Then he can't... It forces him to win quicker. He may not have enough cards left in his deck to deal with it. You know, if he wants the life gain, he's going to have to draw a lot of his deck.
Yeah, unfortunately, Chris did not draw an Azorius Charm, which is one way you can basically fog Aetherling for the turn.
Yeah, well, one thing about his build is because he's this heavy red control deck, he only actually plays 2 Azorius Charm in the main. So he is shorter on ways to deal with, to fog Aetherling than you would normally expect out of a control deck.
Yeah, so he's going to be forced to cast Sphinx Revelation again for... Oh, it doesn't look like he'll have enough. Yeah, because of the Judge's Familiar, he doesn't have another land, so
He can only rev for 4.
he can only rev for 4, which means that Aetherling's still going to be lethal. So Chris did not draw a land there, or yeah, so pretty. I'm not gonna say unlucky, but he didn't draw Azorius Charm as a way to fog for the turn, and he didn't draw another land to kind of revelate for enough to stay alive. So yeah, it looks like the Aetherling plan, Eric's aggressive approach, is going to pay off for him.
All right, Elspeth Plus is up to 7. Makes 3 more tokens. Those are the assemble tokens. So it's going to make the other tokens, these soldiers.
Yeah, so he could, you know.
And he'd really only need 1 more turn here. If he had 1 more turn, it would force Eric to attack Elspeth. You can't let an emblem happen. I think Yarbrough's plan here is to just rev for the full amount and hope that Eric misses Judge's Familiar. I do think that's the play. That's the play he needs to make.
Oh yeah, he has no other play. He has to just hope that Eric doesn't realize he can sack the Judge's Familiar.
All right, another land from Eric. That's one of those outs that's not, not the best. We'll see. Aetherling swings. It's unblockable. 4/5. And we'll see what Yarbrough goes with here. He seems shuffle Sphinx's Revelation to the forefront of his hand, and he's going to tap. That's a revelation for 4. He is playing around Judge's Familiar, but he's going to go for 5. He'll rev for 5.
And there
Eric sees it. The bird is sacked, and that should be enough. And that is it. Eric Gray, 2-1, defeats Chris Yarbrough. He moves on to the finals to face Kent Ketter.
Yeah, and not much Chris can do there. Aetherling plus Jace. A little too much for just one Elspeth to handle.
And it wasn't even really the Jace. It was just the Aetherling.
Yeah. People, Aetherling, it's kind of fallen out of favor a lot. People, some of them aren't even running any copies in the mono blue deck, and even blue-white decks really aren't necessarily running any Aetherlings anymore. They're just adopting Elspeth because it's much more versatile. But the fact is, Aetherling is probably the best threat you can get. It just costs a lot of mana to get going.
Yeah.
I mean, Elspeth is 6 mana, it can take over the game. Aetherling is effectively 7 mana because you can't cast
or
it.
even 8.
Yeah, or even 8 sometimes. So yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot more. It's a lot harder to cast than an Elspeth. So I totally understand wanting to lean more towards more copies of Elspeth than Aetherling. But yeah, if you can get an Aetherling going, it will win you the game almost every time.
We even saw this